Hi, guys. This is Carlin Laborio with Teaching RLA with Carlin Laborio. I wanted to dive deeper into the scoring guides. I just made a video for sixth grade teachers, but I wanted to kind of really dive deep into these. When this first came out on October 7th, I analyzed the scoring guides. These are public knowledge, they're on TA's website, but I wanted to share with you my personal notes. And I don't work for TA. I'm just a fourth grade teacher, but I wanted to share with you these are my notes that I analyzed the scoring guides. And I wanted to share with you what I came up with, what I learned from doing that. So I took notes on the informative extended constructed response. And then I also took notes on the argumentative constructed response. So the one for informational was released, and that one was sixth to eighth grade. So they only released one, and it was sixth grade, but these were some of the notes that I took based on those. And I'll show you them in a minute. This one, argumentative, the one released was third to fifth grade, and that one was fifth grade students that wrote those essays. So that's all we have at the moment. I think next year they're going to come out with one for each grade level. But at the moment, this is all we have. So, what I noticed about the informational is they all had an effective introduction and conclusion. Some of them even had a few sentences for each. So, keep in mind that that is sixth grade. So, that might not necessarily mean fourth grade or third grade has to do that, but for sure, sixth grade. I would say teach your students to do a few sentences for the introduction and conclusion. The thesis, I think they call it a thesis in sixth grade and up, but in third through fifth, they call it a central idea. It's clearly identifiable, unified, and consistent throughout. Organizational pattern, easy to follow. This is the language right from the rubric. Transitions, huge. I copied down some of the transitions that I noticed are in all of the examples. Word choice is specific and purposeful and not vague or general. If you read all of the rationales for the scores, TEA, they did make comments that I read through that said putting stuff or you or so much. They did get points off for that for word choice. Text evidence needs to be sufficient from the passage and relevant, not, and these are the comments that they made for the ones that didn't get a 3 for organization, is they would say it's extraneous, it's irrelevant, it's repetitious, it can be quoted and paraphrased and or paraphrased. They do need to explain the evidence, and it has to be sufficient explaining, relevant, and related. Consistent command of conventions. I took notes that I noticed they did have a comma before the quoted sentence. In fourth grade, I don't think they necessarily take off for that, but in sixth grade, I think they do. Capital inside the quote, run on, spelling, capitalization, commas in a series. Those were things that they expected them to be able to do at sixth grade. And then the argumentative is third to fifth grade, but I took some notes on that, that if the question is which one, and the student answers both, that got a 0. I think if they had given evidence, they might be able to get away with that, but the evidence didn't really support. It was pretty short. Anyway, evidence, but nothing explained, got a 1 out of 3. Introduction and conclusion were each a few sentences. They summed up the reasons in the intro and the conclusion. So that's the biggest difference about opinion writing. And I do have a sample of that where I wrote the introduction and then I summarize the reasons. And then each paragraph gives a reason and then the evidence and then explain. So it kind of follows that pattern. Clear opinion statement at the beginning, followed by reasons and examples. Each reason is a paragraph supported by evidence and explained. So when I analyze those, they each follow that pattern. Transitions, I think, my opinion, for example, first of all, lastly, in conclusion, those are some of the words that the actual sixth graders use. Specific word choice, lots of paraphrasing. This is kind of my own notes of what I think I need to teach my students based on this as word choice, informative versus opinion, text structure, central idea, author's message, character changes, plot, problem solution, central idea, voice, figurative language, revising, all the things, word reference. Okay, so this prompt was the informational one. This is the one that was sixth grade or sixth grade and up. And the prompt was explain how the author develops the idea in the article that it is not easy to become an astronaut. So these are the introductions. I just kind of copy and pasted the introductions from the scoring guide. So it has, these all got 3 points. So these all got perfect scores. Being an astronaut is not an easy task. You have to go through lots of training to get into the NASA programs. And even if you get through all the training, there's not a high chance that you will make it into the program. So notice that was 3 sentences. Here's another introduction that got a perfect score. And they quoted the title. We are training every day in the selection Mission Ready by Melanie Kletter. She explains how it can be tough to become a NASA astronaut. So instead of saying not easy, they're still restating it. They're just using a synonym, which is great writing. This one is not an easy task, is exactly restating. Some people are saying on different Facebook groups that you're going to get points off if you restate the question. That is not true. If you look here, not an easy task, not easy. It's exactly restating, and they got a perfect score. So I think that when you restate an answer, you're being very clear that you're answering the question. If you can come up with a synonym, that's great, but it doesn't necessarily give you extra points. Just like a hook or voice, it's not going to count against you, but you don't have to do that to get a perfect score. So just wanted to point that out. Anyway, there are a lot of steps studying and preparing to do before becoming a certified astronaut. The training is serious and you need to stay focused. In order to get every step and piece of information correct, you need to work hard and try your best. So that's quite a long introduction, but it does kind of go into, it's almost like a summary of the things the astronauts need to do that makes it challenging. And these are some conclusions that were perfect scores. This is why becoming an astronaut is not easy. Again, restates the question. And even after you become an astronaut, you have to go through lots of harsh training after. And this is why becoming an astronaut is a difficult process. So remember that it doesn't have to be perfect. If I was conferencing with this student, I would say, take out where you have this is why, and then you have this is why. Make one of those different. But even though it did that and it has some repetition and it might have some mistakes, it still got a perfect score. And that's because I think it's just that solid conclusion. Here's another one. As you can see, it's not that easy to become a NASA astronaut. It takes a lot of patience and effort, studying and working. Maybe one day you can become a NASA astronaut. So both of these have, they kind of summarize the point that you're trying to make. And then this is kind of, this is another one that got a 3 out of 3. For this one, I copied the body of the essay, the whole essay, so you could see it. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but You'll notice there's underlining. That's because those are mistakes, just to show you that it's not perfect. Here's the one that had this introduction. So notice I see quotation marks. I see, they're telling you what paragraph they found it in, but then this part is in their own words. They're putting that in their own words. They're paraphrasing. And I like this. I like how the student says, in this picture, to me, the pool looks really deep with a pole attached to it so the astronauts can practice their spacewalks. You can tell this is written in the student's own language, and they're not just copying. I love the transitions. Another way. Lastly, as you can see. Okay, so that's the rubric. This one goes into argumentative. And same thing, they have solid multi-sentence introductions. The difference between this one is you will see that it states the opinion. I think that clippers changed life in the United States. And then this is a summary of their reasons. Why? Because they didn't have fuel, they had more cargo space. 3, they were faster. And then it says they both traveled in the water, but I think that clippers changed life more than steamboats. That's what got people to come to the United States. So great introduction. And then the next, this is another introduction, and these are the conclusions. But I'm going to go down to here, back to that one. See how they summarize their reasons. And then if you look at the pattern, I put it in bold so you could see it. It says Clipper changed life in the US because they didn't need fuel. So that one goes with reason 1, fuel. This one is about cargo. And the third one, remember, was faster. So see how each paragraph starts with the reason and then evidence, paraphrased, explained. And then the conclusion is, I personally think, look at the mistakes. I personally think that clippers are better than steamboats and changed life in the United States. Should be a period here. They are better in many different ways. They don't need fuel. They have more cargo space. They go faster than steamboats. My opinion is that they really, really changed life in the US. So just to note, this one did get a score of 1. I think that's supposed to say 1 out of 2. This one got a 1 for conventions, not a 2, because it did have run-ons, it did have mistakes. If it just has some mistakes, it can still get a 2, but that one has a lot of run-ons, and they do tend to look at run-ons heavier than spelling and things like that. Anyway, I think this organizational structure is, I made a planner for this that I have on my resources for opinion writing, argumentative. And I kind of took the idea of races and I added another column where they put their reason, because the organization, in my opinion, is a little bit, they really need to state their opinion. They need to state their opinion. They need to summarize their reasons. Then they need to go reason, evidence, explain. Reason, evidence, explain. Reason, evidence, explain. State their opinion again, answer the question, and then sum it up by summarizing their reasons again. These are some of the comments that the score rationale put. They said effective introduction and conclusion. The organization effectively supports the development of the argument by grouping each idea into paragraphs 2 and 3, paragraph to paragraph transitions, relevantly quoted evidence that is clearly explained, specific word choice. So these are the things that our students should be doing. And that one's another 5 out of 5 to sum it up. All right. Thank you for watching this, and I hope this helped. Bye.